Hi guys, it's Ria and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to discuss Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's karmic relationship, and I'm going to go over a series of events that happened from the day that they met on set to the day that they got married up until the court cases, and I'm really going to analyze for each date what transits and dashas triggered those events. But before we get into it, if you're new to this channel, subscribe below and like this video if you want to see more birth chart analysis like these. So I've already analyzed Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's birth charts, and if you haven't watched that video, I'll link it in the description down below. So watch that video before watching today's video. Today, I'm going to go further by discussing what transits triggered those events. Now, the birth charts of both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard show their karma, and the birth chart kind of lays down the foundation of what might happen, of the potentialities. But the transits really activate those events. The dashas and the transits are a very accurate way of making predictions. So the first layer was the birth chart. Now we're going to go even deeper and discuss the dashas and the transits that triggered all those events. So Johnny Depp and Amber Heard met on set on October 2009. And it was during Johnny Depp's Rahu Venus dasha. Now his Rahu is in the 12th house. 12th house can often represent illusions, and Rahu is also illusions. So during Johnny Depp's Rahu Venus dasha, a lot of his houses got activated because Rahu is in the 12th house and it is co-ruling Aquarius. So it is the co-ruler of his 8th house. So both the 12th house and the 8th house got activated, both Dastana houses. The 12th house represents illusions, and Rahu is also illusions. So Rahu in the 12th house can make a native very prone to misjudging situations and people. So that's the first thing. Now the second thing is Venus. It was Venus antardasha. And Venus is conjunct Sun and Mercury. And Mercury rules his 3rd house and his 12th house. And since Mercury is Rahu's dispositor, those are two strong indications of illusions. Now, the 5th of February 2015, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard got married. Now, let's analyze what transits triggered this event. And you'll notice something really interesting here. During that time, Sun and Mercury were in Capricorn, transiting Johnny Depp's 7th house and his natal Saturn. And the Sun was an enemy sign in bad dignity. So that's first. Second, Saturn was in Scorpio, again in bad dignity, transiting his 5th house and aspecting his 7th house. So both the 5th house and the 7th house got activated. The 5th house is romance, so the 7th house is marriage. So we can clearly see what transits triggered this marriage. But both Saturn and Sun were in bad dignity, in enemy signs. And not only that, but it was a lunar eclipse. Moon and Rahu were transiting his 2nd house. And Rahu Moon indicates karmic depth. Anytime the moon is with the eclipse points, Rahu or Ketu, that is a clear indication of a karmic event. And if you watched my previous video where I analyzed both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's chart, they both have an eclipse in their birth charts. Amber Heard has got an eclipse sun. She's got Sun with Rahu in Aries. And Johnny Depp has got an eclipse moon. He's got moon with Ketu in the 6th house. And Amber Heard's eclipsed sun aspects Johnny Depp's eclipsed moon. and they got married during an eclipse. And we know to always be careful during eclipse to recalculate and rethink everything we do 10 times, because everyone is prone to illusions during eclipses. Things are not clear. Eclipses are shadow points, so things are not very clear. And finally, on that day, Venus and Mars were in Aquarius, transiting his 8th house. And Venus and Mars were only 6 degrees apart from each other. So Johnny Depp already has 8th house energy coming into his 7th house of marriage partner. And the 8th house energy is instability, because his natal birth chart indicates that, because Saturn rules his 7th house and his 8th house and is sitting in the 7th house. So he's already prone to those instabilities in relationships. And not only that, but during transits too, he got married when Venus Mars were transiting his 8th house. So this marriage already started on an eclipse, with the 12th house and the 8th house strongly activated by malefics. So this relationship was full of secrecies, illusions, and a lot of karmic depths and instability. Their relationship actually started in secrecy while he was still married to his ex-wife, Vanessa Paradis. And so he also accuses Amber Heard of having secret affairs during his marriage with her, with James Franco and Elon Musk. So this is 8th house energy, instability, unpredictability, sudden events. Now on May 23rd, 2016, Amber Heard accuses Johnny Depp of domestic violence. And Moon, Mars, and Saturn were in Scorpio. Scorpio is the most karmic sign. It is co-ruled by Ketu. So Moon, Mars, and Saturn were in Scorpio. Saturn was in an enemy sign with Mars, an enemy. And Moon and Saturn were only 1 degree apart. And Saturn was aspecting his 7th house of marriage. And transiting Mars was aspecting his natal Rahu by Mars's 8th aspect, which is the most difficult and destructive aspect. And Rahu was in Leo, transiting over his natal Mars. So we've got a lot of malefics involved here. Now, December 18th, 2018, the Washington Post publishes the op-ed from Amber Heard on domestic violence. And this was a big hit for Johnny Depp's public image and career. And this is when things started to really get worse for him. Sun and Saturn were in Sagittarius, transiting over his natal Moon and Ketu in his 6th house. Now, Sun and Saturn are enemies, conjunct together, transiting over the 6th house of conflicts, litigations, enemies, obstacles, stress. Not only that, but he already has Moon with Ketu, an eclipsed moon in the 6th house. 2 malefics that are enemies conjunct together, transiting over his eclipsed moon in the 6th house, really was a big hit for Johnny. And Moon was in Aries, transiting over his 10th house of public image and career, and was being aspected by Ketu, again signifying karma and losses. And Mars was in Aquarius, transiting over his 8th house of disgrace, humiliation, and scandals. Plus, Rahu was in Cancer on his ascendant, and his natal Rahu was aspecting transiting Mars. Now, around January 2020 is when things slowly started improving for Johnny Depp. The recording of Heard admitting to hitting Johnny Depp were released. The truth was starting to come out. And at that time, Venus was in Aquarius, a friendly sign for Venus. So Venus was in good dignity, transiting over his 8th house of sudden changes. So sometimes sudden changes can take a turn for the worse or for the best. And so transformation started happening. The situation was transforming. 8th house is transformation. So that was the first trigger. So things started to take a turn for Johnny Depp. And Mars was in Scorpio in good dignity in its own sign, transiting over his 5th house. 5th house of Dharma and good fortune. And Jupiter was in Sagittarius with Saturn transiting over Johnny Depp's 6th house. So Jupiter, being the greatest benefic in his own sign, transiting over his 6th house of obstacles and enemies, helped him to overcome that obstacle. And Saturn and Jupiter are both the planet of the truth. Saturn is about justice, and Saturn, being a malefic in the 6th house, helps to give resilience in overcoming enemies. But in July 2020, Johnny Depp fought the newspaper The Sun, and he lost the case November 2nd, 2020. And on November 6th, 2020, he had been asked to resign from his role in The Fantastic Beasts. And that was during his Jupiter-Mercury dasha. Now, if you look at his chart, Jupiter rules his 6th house of courts and litigations. And Mercury rules his 12th house of losses. So both the sthana houses got activated during that time. And Mars was also aspecting his 12th house of losses. Also, the Sun was debilitated in Libra and was aspecting his 10th house of career and public image. And the Sun itself represents authority and recognition. And so being debilitated, aspecting his 10th house, really shows that Johnny Depp took a hit in his career at that time. And he was also going through his Saturn return. Saturn was in Capricorn, transiting over his natal Saturn, indicating difficult lessons to learn with relationships, because Saturn is in his 7th and his 7th lord and ruling the 8th house. So, you know, his Saturn return mainly brought relationship issues and 8th house issues, which are sudden events and transformation. And as I'm filming this video, Saturn just moved from Capricorn to the sign of Aquarius. Saturn is at 0 degrees Aquarius. So his Saturn return is over. Now Saturn is in his 8th house. And yes, it can still be a difficult time, but we can see that things are starting to shift for Johnny Depp. The truth is coming out. So I hope that this video was informative and that it helped you understand how powerfully we can predict events using dashas and transits in Vedic astrology. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.